As a society, are we ready to legalize marijuana? The purpose of this speech is to give you a reason to consider that very question. On a personal note, I smoked marijuana for 20 plus years, on and off. The first 10 of those years would be considered by today's standards as heavy usage. And today, I battle poor memory recall and other cognitive damage as a result of it. I have to work twice as hard as the average student does to get good grades. In this speech, I'm going to highlight some of the more compelling facts and statistics regarding marijuana, specifically as it pertains to teenagers. I'm going to try to dispel the myth that marijuana is harmless, physically, mentally, and socially. Marijuana is the subject of much heated debate in our society and has been for many years. It's one of the most misunderstood drugs of all time. It's important, though, to make the distinction between scientific evidence and personal opinion. Most folks base their opinion on their own subjective experience of marijuana. I used it once and it didn't really hurt, so what's the problem? But separating fact from fiction and sifting through all the rhetoric, it isn't easy, but it's necessary if you expect to have an educated opinion. Now we have an overabundance of scientific evidence to draw from. So this speech is based on some of that scientific evidence. Each year, over 300,000 people, mostly teenagers, seek treatment for their inability to control their marijuana use. Now, this figure has doubled in the last 10 years. And contrary to popular opinion, smoked marijuana suppresses the immune system. It makes smokers susceptible to certain types of cancer and certain types of infection. As far as your heart goes, you increase the risk of a heart attack 4 times over in the first hour after use. And by the way, you can follow along with this speech if you get my slides from the PowerPoint that I put in doc sharing. As far as your lungs go, marijuana smoke contains carcinogens and it irritates your lungs. It gives you a better chance of getting things like bronchitis. Also, the American Lung Association has stated that marijuana smoke contains what they call carcinogenic hydrocarbons and has 60% more of these carcinogenic hydrocarbons than tobacco smoke does. So we need to do more study on the link between this and possible cancer. They haven't found a link to cancer yet, but give them time. Mental health. Marijuana use is linked to mental illness, especially schizophrenia and psychosis, depression and anxiety. Also, in teenagers, 8.3% of teenagers will suffer from depression during one of their adolescent years. And that's without the help of marijuana. If you're pregnant and you smoke marijuana during your pregnancy, your baby will be born with decreased birth weight. No, the baby doesn't get the munchies, just mom. The baby suffers from the effect of carbon monoxide exposure from the smoke. They just did a 38-year-long longitudinal study with persistent cannabis users. This study captured the adolescent period from 11 years old to 20 years old in teenagers. It had 1,000 participants. It was 38 years long, began at birth, and they tested each person 6 times. Once before the onset of marijuana use at age 13, again at age 18, again at 21, 26, 32, and for the last time at 38 years old. And what they found was a neuropsychological decline in cognition. In other words, marijuana messes up our brain in areas like memory, learning, attention span, problem solving, reaction time, and they found an 8-point drop in IQ. Science has also confirmed that the adolescent brain, the teenage brain, specifically this area in the front called the prefrontal cortex, the area that regulates decision-making, social behavior, personality expression, abstract thinking, the area where we solve mathematical problems, does not fully develop in teenagers until their mid-20s. This still developing brain is vulnerable to all the negative effects of marijuana. In the same way that it would bother you to watch a pregnant woman drink alcohol, it should bother you to watch a teenager smoke marijuana. Teens need to protect their brain much the same way a pregnant woman would protect her unborn baby. Marijuana use in teenagers rose in states where it was made legal. 8th grade children were found smoking marijuana in California buyers clubs. The medical cannabis industry overall is a sham. Qualifying marijuana participants, the patients that are in need of a prescription, they look more like people trying to scam a get-out-of-jail-free card. In Colorado, where marijuana is legal, 74% of the teenagers that were seeking help for their marijuana addiction admitted using diverted medical marijuana. And if marijuana becomes legal, the price per pound won't be $2,000 to $3,000 street value that it is now. Once it enters a free market system and becomes subject to free competition and competition kicks in, the price is going to go down. And it's going to be a fraction of the street value that it is now. Now, this is going to be appealing to smokers, but it's going to lower the tax base considerably. And all these projections that you hear about tax revenues and windfalls, not going to happen. The idea that we can legalize a drug like marijuana with as many known downsides as it has and have no socioeconomic damage is pure fantasy. Any gains are going to be offset by social damage. Addicted teens needing treatment, ER visits are going to climb, impaired driving accidents are going to happen, IQ loss equals poor school outcomes, and poor school outcomes equals poor life outcomes. Every major health organization, the American Medical Association, the National Cancer Institute, and the National Institute of Health, they all have rejected smoked marijuana as medicine. And the media is pro-legalization. A good site to reference is the Partnership for Drug-Free America and the National Institute of Health. This isn't an issue where you have to go along just to get along. This isn't about consenting adults either. This is about our teens, our adolescents, the next generation coming up, our most precious resource. The time to decide is now. Don't let someone else make this decision for you.